A door swings. Light floods a narrow corridor. For 3 seconds, the room forgets to breathe. Cameras twitch. Stylists freeze mid-brush. You can almost hear the fabric hold its breath. That's the clip you saw. The triumphant arrival, the glossy smile, the confident stride. But reportedly, that's not the whole story, because behind the flashbulbs, something stranger happened. The energy dipped. The room cooled. Conversation turned into static. And in Paris, the city that invented silent judgment, silence is never empty. It's a verdict. Allegedly, Meghan Markle walked in expecting a storm of welcome. Instead, she met a mirror, not of glass and of faces, of distance, of doubt, 3 seconds of shock. Then the whispers started. Before we go further, if you love sharp storytelling and calm, credible breakdowns, no noise, just receipts and restraint, subscribe to this new channel. It's free, and it tells the algorithm that sober analysis deserves a seat at the table. If you're watching with an open mind, drop a balanced in the comments so I know you're here for the full picture. Now, let's unwind what the headlines didn't. On the surface, a win. Paris Fashion Week, black SUVs. Clicks like fireworks. Editors leaning in. A look built for headlines. Public feeds showed her poised and polished. The walk, the wave, the close-ups. But insiders, reportedly, describe the room differently. Backstage should hum. Hair dryers competing with playlist bass. Assistants in relay. Instead, a hush. Not hostile. Just off. Like someone hit mute, one source allegedly said. Photographers, usually elbow to rib relentless, kept a polite distance. Not a scrum. Not a swarm. A ring of space. The kind you notice more because it shouldn't be there. One makeup artist, sources suggest, whispered a line that spread faster than any lip gloss. You can fix contour. You can't fix aura, is that fair? Or fashionable cruelty? In Paris, the two are cousins. Then came the status optics. Who stands near whom? Who is framed with whom? Proximity is currency. It signals belonging. Witnesses claimed people drifted sideways as if obeying an unspoken floor plan. No scene, no drama. Just a careful choreography of avoidance. And the chatter about the wardrobe didn't help. Borrowed samples, murmurs said. Tags allegedly tucked. No custom notes. No couture whisper. Just loaned armor. For A-list royalty, real or self-made, Paris notices tailoring like a doctor reads scans. If the fit is a fraction off, the diagnosis is swift. Now, a reality check. Fashion rooms can be brutal. They can also be wrong. Perception is a powder. It clouds quickly. But the consensus reportedly formed fast. The arrival played to the cameras. The room wasn't buying the performance. Here's where the fault lines show. Tension 1, image versus presence. Image loves the lens. Presence wins the room. Allegedly, her image dazzled the lens. Her presence didn't warm the room. The smile was textbook. The gestures correct. The posture perfect. And yet sources suggest everything felt rehearsed. Great for red carpet. Risky backstage. In that corridor, performance reads as pleading. Tension 2. Access versus invitation. Did she come as a crown jewel or as a clever surprise? One narrative reportedly says a friendly text. Another claims who invited her? Floated like a draft under the door. There's no crime in ambition. But Paris admires the soft power of being asked, not the optics of asking. Tension. 3. Morality versus optics. Court of public opinion. Exhibit A. Brand controversies. Exhibit B. Her public advocacy on children's safety. Placed side by side, the edits were merciless. Commentators asked, was this moral clarity or PR acrobatics? To be clear, that's debate, not verdict. But debate moves algorithms. And algorithms move careers. This is where the agencies enter, PR handlers frame the arc. Fashion houses protect the myth. Editors decide what gets oxygen. Social producers decide what gets oxygen now. Witnesses claim the editorial appetite cooled mid-evening. Enough to shoot. Not enough to swoon. And that's lethal in a city where attention is the last true couture. Tension 4, proximity politics. Fashion is a chessboard of inches. If the creative director stands left, who gets right? If a heritage heiress is framed center, where does a duchess stand? Reportedly, the grid did not favor her. Not exile, just side frame. The kind of placement that says thank you for coming without saying please stay. Tension 5. The tunnel clip. Later, the drive through that tunnel, the one seared into royal memory, went viral. Many called it coincidence. Others called it eerie. A few, too eager, called it performative. Our stance? Caution. Without proof, intent is unknowable. But even coincidence can be combustible when history is watching. So why did this night feel like a slip? Because Paris grades authenticity like a conservatory grades pitch. You can almost hit the note and still fail the room. And reportedly, the room felt strain, effort, reach. A performance tuned to the flashbulb, not to the air. Let's be fair. The camera told a cleaner story. Many fans saw elegance, presence, poise. And they're not wrong. From the outside, the reel plays beautifully. But backstage is where myths are minted. And in that crucible, witnesses claimed the alloy didn't set. If you've watched this far, you're the kind of viewer who stays for nuance. Do me a favor, tap subscribe so this newborn channel doesn't get drowned by outraged thumbnails. Drop your take below. Was this performance or presence? Keep it civil. Keep it smart. I'm reading every word. By the next morning, the headlines were clean. Surprise appearance. Paris welcomes the Duchess. A triumph in couture. But insiders knew those words were airbrushed over discomfort. Because the footage that didn't make it to the news told another story. A few leaked frames, shaky, raw, unfiltered, reportedly showed her standing alone near the mirrored wall. Her reflection glittered. The room around her did not. Stylists shuffled papers that didn't need shuffling. Assistants fixed invisible seams. It wasn't open hostility. It was polite indifference, the deadliest form of rejection in Paris. A few unpublished frames, shaky and unfiltered, reportedly show her standing alone by a mirrored wall. The reflection was brilliant. The surroundings were still. Stylists pretending to scroll their phones. Assistants busy fixing garments that were already perfect. It wasn't cruelty. It was distance. One witness allegedly described it as the sound of heels echoing in a room full of applause that never came. Paris is a city that lives for noise, music, debate, laughter. So when it goes quiet, that quiet means something. Then came the rumor no one wanted to repeat, but everyone did. A whisper about her scent, a mix of cheap perfume and stress, someone joked. Petty, yes. Predictable? Absolutely. But in the high church of fashion, where every detail is a currency, those tiny perceptions become truths overnight. Because in Paris, you don't cancel people. You politely erase them by turning away. By midday, editors were already adjusting their coverage. Her name stayed in the headlines, but her images were pushed below the fold. Reporters claimed the crowd was lukewarm, one press note quietly read. A single sentence, but in public relations, lukewarm is colder than ice. Now comes the confusion over how she got there. Her team insisted it was a formal invitation, an honor, a collaboration. But the creative director, in his own interview, offered a different tone. A casual text, a friendly exchange, a surprise appearance. No grand plan. No official announcement. Reportedly, that difference did not go unnoticed. In Paris, spontaneity can look like desperation if the timing is wrong. You don't arrive unannounced to a show where every seat is a statement. It's like crashing a dinner party where the menu was set months in advance. So the question shifted. Was this a surprise guest appearance or a strategic crash? And as always, in the absence of facts, perception filled the void. Those who saw confidence called it a power move. Those who sensed tension called it a plea for relevance. And when a room splits like that, the internet does the rest. Still, nothing could have prepared the public for what happened next. The drive. The tunnel. The very tunnel where Princess Diana's life ended in 1997. And as the car glided through, someone recorded. Someone posted. Someone captioned. And the algorithm did the rest. The footage went viral in hours. Split-screen comparisons, slow-motion clips, dramatic music. The comments were immediate. Was this a tribute? Was this a message? Was this just tone deaf? Her team claimed coincidence. A routine route back to the hotel. But sources suggest even supporters winced. Because symbolism is the currency of Paris, and that symbol was too loaded to ignore. If it was intentional, it felt provocative. If it was accidental, it felt haunting. Either way, it became the story. And for someone who has built a career on narrative control, This was a narrative that spun on its own. Every platform lit up with hashtags linking the two women, the Princess of Grace and the Duchess of Controversy. Tribute or theater? Coincidence or calculation? The debate was merciless, and Meghan was once again its centerpiece. Yet through all of it, one pattern emerged. Paris wasn't outraged. It was amused, detached. And that's worse, because in fashion, being mocked hurts. But being dismissed? That's fatal. And so the week ended the way it began, with silence. Not the electric kind that follows a standing ovation, the hollow kind that follows a performance that didn't land. Witnesses claimed that as she left the venue, photographers lowered their lenses. Not rudely, respectfully, indifferently, the way you do when you've already got the shot you need. One insider allegedly summed it up in a sentence that now floats through Paris group chats. She looked like a statue in a room of mirrors. The metaphor writes itself. Statues don't move. They're admired from a distance. They don't belong to the room, they decorate it. That was the real blow. Not the comments online, not the headlines or hashtags, but the collective decision of a city that once welcomed her to simply stop looking, because Paris doesn't cancel people loudly. It just forgets them gracefully, and as the glamour faded into the night, the lesson was clear. Presence isn't about arriving in designer heels. It's about earning the air around you. Diana had it, that unforced humanity that turned a spotlight into warmth. Grace Kelly had it, a stillness that made crowds whisper instead of cheer. Meghan, for all her discipline and drive, reportedly felt manufactured in comparison. Perfect posture, perfect angles. But Paris doesn't applaud geometry. It applauds soul. When the final posts went live, her team's curated images with captions about empowerment and art, the comment section told a different story. Half admiration, half fatigue. She's trying too hard. Everything feels scripted. This isn't Diana, and that's the cruel loop of modern fame. The more you try to prove authenticity, the less authentic you look. By the week's end, reportedly, editors were calling the appearance lukewarm. In Paris terms, that's a scarlet letter. Designers moved on to new faces. Publicists shifted attention to new scandals. And for the first time in a long while, Meghan Markle, once the headline herself, became background noise to a different story. Was it deserved? That's debatable. Was it avoidable? Probably not. Because when you build your brand on being seen, eventually the act of being seen becomes its own vulnerability. Paris had handed down its verdict quietly, not through banishment, through boredom. And for someone who thrived on attention, that was the coldest punishment of all. In the days after, as clips from that night continued to circulate, new narratives emerged. Some defended her, calling her appearance a brave re-entry into an industry that had wronged her. Others mocked it as self-inflicted. But the pattern was clear. The conversation was no longer about her message. It was about her mistake. And in a media landscape that feeds on fatigue, that's how you fade. Not in scandal, but in shrugs. So maybe the real tragedy isn't that Paris rejected her. It's that Paris saw through her. In a city that worships originals, replication feels like sacrilege. And for a woman often accused of chasing the ghost of Diana, this was the moment the mirror finally cracked. Because the truth is brutal but simple. You can borrow a dress, a title, even a narrative. But you can't borrow belonging. If you've watched this far, you already know this channel is different. We don't shout. We analyze. We don't speculate for clicks. We ask why it matters. So take a second, hit subscribe, and help this new community grow. Because when we build spaces that value depth over drama, we change the way stories are told. And now the question passes to you. Did Paris judge her too harshly, or did she misread the room? Was it a moment of misunderstood boldness? Or the clearest sign yet that the fairy tale has finally faded? Drop your thoughts below. I read them all. Because in the end, no headline, no photo, no spin could erase the one truth that lingers. In Paris, silence isn't an absence of applause. It's a sentence.